Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. A game that just won't quit, the game that just won't die. It marches on. I am Garrett, he is Kyle, and we're here, everybody. There was no patch this week.
Yes.
So,
though I think all of our brains are off because we're not used to new hero PTRs, and then we did Not Paradox, and then we hung out last week, so we're actually not at the 3-week mark yet. So it's not 3 weeks yet. Yes. There will be a patch next week, it seems. Though it could be after that. It'll be interesting. I think they're definitely probably working on a lot of those frame rate bugs. So there's other stuff than just balance in the background. It's a little surprising for those who are suffering from the weather anomaly issues on their own computers. Some of the win rates are a little bizarre and affected by all this balance and new heroes and reworks. But if everything works out as we might predict with the 3-week schedule, that'll be really cool for next week because AZ Jackson, the balance designer of the game, will join us for a balance week, and we can just go, what is this? Why would you do this?
well, hopefully one of those things is Broodlust, and we won't have to ask him why.
Yes, we won't have to once again remind him that we're still waiting on it, and Zagara could use the love.
In fact, there's no question to be asked, Kyle. There's just one thing to be said. Thank you.
There you go.
When Broodlust happens, there are no questions, only gratitude.
Well, you and I got to play some games this week, which, we always play the game, but it's not always...
It's pretty rare we get to play together. Yeah. You're this dirty West Coaster that I can't stay awake for. I'm sorry, I'm old, Kyle. Gone are the days of me staying up past 12 a.m. Unless it's because I can't fall asleep because of the chihuahua next to my head is wheezing. But then I'm usually asleep by 1 at the latest.
Okay. It's very specific.
Extremely specific. Extremely specific. This literally happened last night. Last time I looked at the clock, it was 1 a.m. and then I was finally out. So... yeah, we don't get to play together very often because usually even when you do play at times when I could play with you, I'm usually doing another show. So
or we're playing with our patrons or we're playing in a 5-stack, like just the two of us hit ranked duo queue and had a good time.
Yeah, we did 4 games, went 3-1, and 2 of those wins they made us work for it. It was a real treat, man, and I'm about to descend into 2 weeks of insanity. I'm helping with some stuff outside of my podcast land, and then I'm going on whatever COVID allows to be a vacation. I'll be going away, but after that, I want to play more. We need to do that more often. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I got May 3 times last night.
You did,
right?
Yeah. You made basically the whole night. It was solid. There weren't all wins, so like we proved May's mortality. And some of those wins were like skin of absolute teeth. We absolutely ended up in multiple situations that were wonderful examples of how May just runs out of ways to help her team.
Yeah.
Eventually, you've used all your abilities. It's over. The opposing team can now do whatever they want while your cooldowns tick down. And sorry, but your snowball ain't doing enough. Although you are. Yes, the Q is actually called snowball. I call 3 different abilities for her snowball. But you did get there was one particular game where the blinds were just exactly what we needed, but most of the time, that's on the shortest cooldown. It's not the ability you're hoping for to back your team up.
Well, something really interesting there, because when we joined up, we ended up in like mid-high plat together. There was a lot of bloodlust, and May was able to really deal with it in terms of the blind, but also the avalanche, the snowball disengage, and even just getting rid of Greymane, enemy Rainer. Like, one person out of that pile made such a huge impact as to getting rid of the power of bloodlust that we were actually able to turn around those fights or fight into it. I've said many times, the hardest thing for any team to do is to play the, well, we'll just disengage style, and may let us continue to fight through those times when we should disengage by forcibly disengaging. And that CC is on the tank, which I think is really important, because how many times have we all been betrayed by the Falstad, who's not peeling? He's engaging the enemy team on top of you and doesn't see why this shouldn't win. I gusted them all into tower range. How did you all die? Well, you see, Falstad, they were 2 levels up. They didn't care about our buildings, and they were right on top of us.
Yeah, there's May kind of brings patience to your team. You're right. Like, she really kind of excels at holding the door, saying, "Hey, everybody, let's hit pause. Let's press pause for a moment. Maybe we don't charge headfirst into that timed buff to everyone's damage output on the opposing team." She's really, really good. Even just your Blizzard, if you just want to use that, even if, Avalanche is on cooldown or whatever, that can be enough of a deterrent. It can give you just enough of a pause, of a breather to take a step back and get out of range of the hell that is about to descend upon you. Yeah, dude, you're right. On both sides, because there was always a Rhaegar, I think, in every single game we played. It was either against the Rhaegar or the Rhaegar was on our team. And it was just Bloodlust-a-palooza. Which I mean, is I don't think we're blowing anyone's minds. I mean, it was like a month ago that we were like, okay, where did Bloodlust come from? Why is it all of a sudden the most picked and highest win rate heroic on Rhaegar and yada, yada, yada. We've been living in a Bloodlust meta for a long time, but that was definitely, anecdotally, the most Bloodlust games I was in back to back in a very, very, I think ever, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we were banning things like, Ana, because I was afraid of nano boost.
Well, it was something we were talking about in the ban phase, was that it was really difficult to make a call on the healer to ban. It was, who were we stuck between? It was Ana, or it was it Rhaegar? No. Who was the other one we were waffling between?
The other healer?
Yeah.
I don't know. We had that crazy Kharazim for 2 of our games, so my brain is still stuck on that.
Yeah, maybe I'm misremembering. I think I might be misremembering, because I'm looking at all the supports in the game right now. I'm like, no, I don't see anyone else I would want to get rid of.
That second ban phase too is often when I take care of things like Garrosh, or these things that can be real trouble to our immobile heroes, or just make picks that cause the game to go a little off. We did a lot of tank restricting last night too, where we were, making sure that we limited them down to just that Mal'Ganis. Basically, get rid of the pool of tanks that everybody knows they have to know how to play, and hopefully they'll end up on something they're just not good at.
Yeah. It's a good strategy. We got there quite a bit, which is cool. Like, drafting is, last week we talked about it, and there's definitely like the bans right now, but they've shifted things around in the fact that like Deathwing isn't getting banned every game and whatnot. Like, there's some interesting decisions to be made. It's just that I think they're being made in that second ban phase, right?
Yeah, we're just getting rid of whatever's OP in the top and playing that game if we can get access to something that is OP enough. Like, I'd say Tassadar and Zul are in that OP enough territory. Their win rate's not crazy. In fact, there are characters who we don't think of often, or are just such blind bans, like, Semuro, for instance, or Tyrael right now has snuck up in the win rates. Phoenix, Tracer, like Orphea. There are still really good heroes with better win rates than Tassadar, Zul, but those heroes can be overwhelming, and they take such a shift in us how we're going to counter and play against them. The chances are higher too, so we favor those bans. It's a really cool project. I'm in charge of the bans a lot of the time for my team in the NGS Heroes Lounge business right now. And our team captain is all about banning like super coordinated things like Lost Vikings and Abathur every game. But again, they're such blind shots. And luckily with the NGS, you know what team you're going to fight next week. So I get to research my upcoming match on the 17th and see if they actually have an Abathur or Lost Vikings player.
So are you just now like, because you're going back and forth between coordinated play and your stream where you're solo queuing in solo or in Storm League or with me, are you just going back and forth between the mindset we used to always serve this show up in back when HGC was a thing, and was just like, well, what are we talking about if it's coordinated versus what are we talking about if it's a pickup game? Are you finding it pretty easy to move it back and forth between that world?
Yes, but that's because I'm solo lane for my team games, and I avoid the solo lane like the plague when it comes to Storm League. But I'm also a tank player, right? Okay,
so you're in two very distinct mindsets when you're playing with a team versus playing by yourself.
Exactly.
And if you're and if you're doing with me, guess what? You're definitely not doing the solo lane.
Well, and the project, the main thing I'm working on in the solo lane isn't usually like a 1v1, because that's often decided in the draft how I'm going to be playing that. If I'm Yrel, they got a Malthael. My game is don't let Malthael touch me, and I can out soak him and win and maybe clear faster or at least break even. If it's Leoric versus Yrel, I'm going to be wiggling a lot, and maybe if he misses a Drain Hope, I go in. Like, it's a back and forth that's really interesting. I'm working on a lot of Imperious for that project, but what I do more often is call missing, and if they're having a really long fight in the bottom, I say I can get mid soak. So even on maps you don't normally double soak, sometimes I get up to that project because that bottom Dragonshire business has just been going for so damn long that if anyone excuses themselves to clear mid, they're going to have issues.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I hadn't thought about it that way, although it makes a lot of sense because you've been doing nothing but talking about solo lane when you're talking about your coordinated play. And I think we're like hitting a full year of you talking about tanking in your regular games.
Yeah, that was about, I mean, I've certainly been around it for a while with Johanna, but it was about a year and a half ago when I really made that choice with Arthas and everything else to fill out the tanking, and I'm having a great time with it, man.
Even when you're asked to make balloon animals?
Even when I'm asked to perform at children's parties, yes. Even that Johanna, I mean, that's hard work right now. In comparison to May, Johanna is... It's a different puzzle for sure. Johanna has the lane clear that I think benefits things like Tomb of the Spider Queen in particular. And she's got the blind, which can also be through talents worked into a self-heal, a mark that deals more damage, using it for dismount, using it for bush checks and all this sort of thing. Like, the blind can have all these wonderful uses if I don't need to blind an enemy. But May's got that as well with the building disable, with the slow attached to it. That's slow. It isn't huge, but it's really important for making your engagements, and chasing someone down the range on it is great. And then you've got that whole lockdown combo, true stun, before you even get to 10. So you feel more busy and impactful. And I've really fallen in love with the level 7 talent, Skating Away. And this is where, when icing ends, May and all nearby allied heroes gain 20% movement speed and 50 physical armor. And you got to be the recipient of that buff multiple times last night, and it does work.
Saved my buns, especially because we kept ending up in a game with a Kerosene. The Kerosene was amazing, but it meant no heals.
Yeah, we were very self-sustaining in that way.
Yeah, very a lot of skin of teeth moments, be it wins or just trying to exit a fight.
But I know we're talking about game, and people can go over to twitch.tv/KyleFergusson and check these videos out. I put them in a nice little block there so everyone can watch them if they want, of our 2 stacking. But I also just want to take a moment while we're talking about these games and praise our awesomeness in realizing we had to take care of Smurf Hanzo in that last game with the Sonya jump and the Diablo just delete somebody.
That was my happy place. When you started showing Diablo and I'd already grabbed the Sonya, you were like, I think we go for the Hanzo with Leap. And it's like, playing like Leap Sonya is really my happy place right now. I know I spend all this time talking about Rexar, and it's what people like kind of know me for. But it's a lot of work to play Rexar. I'm never really relaxed when I'm playing Rexar. I am relaxed when I'm playing Sonya. It's just like fun. It's my favorite toy in the toy box. And Leap especially. Like I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go Berserker, but that's not that exciting. You know, it's exciting being decisive. That's what Leap lets me do. So that was an absolute treat of a game to go out on.
I think that's what there's an interesting divide there. That's what makes May more fun for me than Johanna right now. Granted, there's also the newness, so newness will wear off. But
I think I share this out with you too. I kind of fall on it that I think May is infinitely more fun to play, but I'd rather have a Johanna tanking for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much clog a Johanna provides. But May lets you get in these crazy positions and recover from them a lot of the time. It also has that active brain part that Diablo gives me, where I'm always looking at walls and I'm always thinking about angles and stuff, whereas ETC Johanna don't need those angles. They'll just do their thing.
Where we're going, we don't need angles.
Right. And that's probably better. But it also means that May just has this special place right now in just being busy and feeling active and having multiple ways to deal with things.
Yeah. Well, before it sounds like we're about to head into Metatown. So before we do that, let's take a minute and thank those out there supporting us on Patreon with their hard-earned money. So thank you very much, everybody, for heading on over to patreon.com/ITN and supporting this here program. It means a lot to us. We do put quite a bit of time into this show, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So thank you very much. And if you like our show, you want to support us, patreon.com/ITN. Go check it out. You'll get access to the Discord. You'll be able to sign up for our monthly game nights with our patrons and get other perks like an ad-free feed and whatnot. So thank you for that. And to our most recent patrons, thank you to, I'm going to say DT Altair and Christian Miola. Thank you for the support, you two. Really appreciate it. And if you're out there, you like what we're doing here on Into the Nexus and you want to support the program, patreon.com/ITN. But let's go ahead and talk about the meta.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Point me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
So probably a week out, hopefully, from a patch, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But we now have a good chunk of time on the latest patch to take a look at where everyone has fallen, Kyle, which means if you're watching the video version, I'm just going to straight up shameless plug and say that over on Hot Slogs, we now have a by patch filter, which is
that's shameless.
Super handy.
That word. This is awesome. Absolutely. This segment of news sponsored by Hot Slogs. Hot Slogs, now with the patch filter.
Yeah, check it out. Hotslogs.com. Go install the uploader, everybody. The more of you uploading, the more accurate our statistics will be. But yeah, now we've got that up so we can look at all of the replays in our database from the most recent patch. And there are some silly numbers of games played on heroes like Cassia and May right now.
Yes.
And also some silly win rates on heroes like Cassia and May right now. Don't pay attention to Rexar. Please don't nerf Rexar, even though he's in second place on Hot Slogs.
No, but let's be serious here. Like, the amount of data that Hot Slogs is processing right now is great. Like, I haven't seen over 100,000 games in this database since the end of HGC. And a side note here, we're seeing people like Mike Udall, like tons of old pros come back and start streaming this game again. I mean, granted, we just had the Method Madness, so Blizzard Sphere was in the esports scene, but a lot of those like World of Warcraft people and people who went to WoW Classic suddenly made their way back to HOTS. And that might be the Overwatch hero, who knows? There's a buzz around this game again, and it comes and goes, but it's really awesome to see. So these statistics are going to be more beefy than normal, and thanks to the patch filter feature at hotslogs.com, we can actually compare this patch, the weather phenomena, anomena.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. To the call to help and see what heroes look like and how they changed based on those different patches. Because of course, when the call for help came out, it was extreme. Like we had that. It's funny to look back and see how much it changed since its release. But we had the cannon towers doing the aggro business. Damage was up on all the buildings. Since then, we've gone down 10% to normal damage and then down 10% again on cannon towers, forts, and keeps. So our cannon towers right now do not have aggro, and they're just straight up weaker than they've ever been. And the forts and keeps now have that, armor minus. So they're hitting pretty hard, but it only goes up to 20 now. So it's really interesting to see how that affected the game. And what we're seeing out of things since the weather phenomena is pretty obvious. You got Cassia sitting on top right now, doing great. But we also see like Alarak up a lot, which is very, very fascinating. In particular, he's really succeeding on Snow Flurry maps, which is just kind of cute because it's the maps that give shields, and he's the only Protoss with no shields. So yeah, he got the dream came true. He's a Protoss now.
He's a Protoss.
Full-fledged.
Wow, just rocking it on Cursed Hollow.
It's an interesting lineup here. So our big winners from the weather patch and any balance that came with it was Cassia, Alarak, Samuro, and Lieutenant Morales.
Morales is interesting.
Morales seems to be doing really well on those same Snow Flurry maps. So anywhere where there are shields, Morales is doing well. We can make some assumptions as to why that's working out for her. And we do see some heroes across these maps that make perfect sense with their weather. Like Rainstorms, Garden of Terror, Sky Temple, Braxis Holdout, Dragonshire. Chen is up 7%. Well, you give Chen movement speed and a lightning shield, he might make use of it. But then there's people who make no sense, in a sense. Nova is up 7% on those same maps.
But wait, because doesn't her Hollow also get the shield?
No. And I believe, if I'm thinking correctly, this is anecdotal I heard, the lightning is persistent during her stealth. So there's just,
so it's just straight up bad for her.
Yeah, straight up bad for her. The spinning balls making their way across the map.
Gotcha. So that should also affect Samuro.
Yes. Sammy is in a situation where only the true Sammy gets his lightning shield and movement speed. So it's very apparent which one is which. And if you transmute between, you keep your lightning shield. So teleporting around still reveals which one's the real one.
Yes. Huh. Why are they doing so well?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've got an anecdotal answer for you. I had a game this week in Dragonshire. This is Diamond, by the way, where my team did not want to soak top. I was Mal'Ganis, so I've got no lane clear powers until 16. And even then, that 16 is so cool. There's so many things I want to pick at 16. I mean, there's 2 other talents. It's not insane amounts of choice, but there's so many things I'd rather do than pick bats at 16 for lane clear to make up for my team's issues. But I had to build for lane clear because I ended up in the solo lane while the rest of my team with Alarak frontline, but we had a Nova. And the Nova went from lane to lane sniping, occasionally killing the top lane and then immediately leaving and doing no soaking, which drove me nuts. But it meant that we kind of equaled out and we won that match.
Huh.
And I pinged, man. I pinged.
It's a head scratcher, dude, because we talked about it a little bit, and there's been a lot of chat on our Discord about it, that it like should be that the lightning storm shields specifically should just be like a buff to melee classes. Like clear, plain, and simple. And shows how much Samuro and Nova I play against, but like was unaware that they work that way on them to where only the real one gets it, and they get those even when they're stealth. Like that should be a bad thing for them. So I guess in theory, I mean, it's starts a little bit to get back to our discussion from last week and the week before, where we kind of talk about it being a little inconsequential, the anomaly as a whole. It's having an effect, but it's not having a major effect.
Well, and it's not one that we can recognize easily. And there's all sorts of puzzles like this in Heroes of the Storm. Recently, I've had to learn how to, as the solo lane pick, also counter Chromie. And that was a really difficult puzzle because Yrel jumps in straight lines, Leoric leaves his body hanging out too long and just gets destroyed by Chromie anytime you try to Wraith Walk anywhere.
Yeah.
And that left my main comfort picks extremely restricted. I was thinking maybe I can learn Sammy for this, but Sammy's not good there either, which is bizarre. The actual counter to Chromie when you look at the solo lane is Deathwing. But my brain says big dragon, lots of sand. Big dragon gets hit by lots of sand. I die. But what actually happens is you land on top of Chromie and her heroics don't work. She can't slow you. She can't rewind you. She can stasis you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still susceptible to the time traps, but that amount of pressure forces her out, and maybe you just happen to catch every sand that otherwise would pierce somebody else and go into the back line behind you. So Deathwing's the counter there. So sometimes these don't make pretty pictures. I mean, I've got a pretty picture example for you here with Kerrigan. Kerrigan is up in our Rainstorm maps. She gets a shield, that's nice. But the character I was concerned about, Genji, is actually down quite a bit, 6% or so on those maps. And then we have Ragnaros, who would love movement speed and likes stacking heroes if he's doing a Q build. Why isn't he succeeding in a rain environment?
I don't know. I mean, I still don't see a lot of players even trying to make anything happen with these anomalies. To a certain degree. If we want to get an anecdotal space again, like how in your pickup games, if you mentioned your pre-maze, I'm gonna jump through the internet at you.
No, I'm good. We're good.
How in your pickup games, like how often do you see someone intentionally going away in a bush for stealth or playing differently because the storm just came down? And I'm just gonna leave shields out because shields.
They happen occasionally.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I do remember in our match last night on Sky Temple, we were making a choice between clearing buildings or doing a boss, and it happened to be raining, so we did the boss. And we did it much faster than we otherwise would have. So that was interesting.
Yeah, but I don't remember typing to the team, "We have storms, let's go." Again, we were two stacked. So we at least had a two people that could plant their feet and say, "This is what we're doing." Like it was again, that's a moment where I look at that and I say, I don't think the anomaly, like I know for you that made you want to make that call, but
right. It was a happy accident for the most part.
Right.
And
right.
I did get completely owned.
Yeah. And that again comes back around to, I wish I knew when the storm was going to land. I think that'd be more interesting.
Yeah. I did get completely owned on a Foggy Mist map. It was Tomb of the Spider Queen, but that was an organized play.
Fog is the one I have seen actively utilized the most. I think. I don't know. Maybe everyone I've ever seen actually go stealth from the fog. They were just trying to hide in a bush, and then they by random happenstance they went stealth.
Doing it. It didn't equal success. They did not pull it into a win.
But in more games than that with fog, I'm seeing a lot of people go and get stealth and then move around the map. That's the one that has impacted the game the most, in my opinion, or at least noticeably impacted the game the most. So, yeah, that's the other thing is like I would. Maybe we're just trying to read into this too much. Maybe there's not enough players out there even trying to make an attempt at getting value out of these anomalies. So maybe they're just going up and down with the meta as usual. Because we talk about up and down movement all the time. This isn't something we're talking about just because this anomaly is here. As certain heroes rise in prominence, other heroes go down in prominence because of a multitude of factors. But
well, here's something interesting for you. Sergeant Hammer is up on Foggy Mist maps. And Hammer has a level 1 talent where if she is basic attacking while stealthed, she deals 100% more damage. And because Hammer doesn't have name stealth, I believe, I actually haven't tested this one, but I believe that would affect her. That would allow this talent to work. Most heroes that come with stealth, like Zeratul, Nova, Sammy, and all those, their stealth has like a name, like Covert Ops or Dark Templar or something or other. And that means when they're affected by stealth that's not theirs, like a Brightwing stealth or these map stealths, they don't get the benefits from talents.
Oh, that's interesting. That's clever, actually. But you haven't tested it, but we're working on the assumption that's the way that Hammer works. That just file that under unintended consequences that we were kind of talking about when we previewed the anomaly.
Yeah, and Towers of Doom for her is a 29% win rate according to this, so maybe the other maps are padding that out a bit better than Towers of Doom.
What, for Hammer?
Yeah.
I mean, think about how much people move around that map, dude. You really want to like lock yourself in place on Towers of Doom?
I think that it could be in my mind's eye. I see it being beneficial because when you take the bottom building, which you would be pressuring the whole game, you could sit under it and hopefully we win. And I've gotten in trouble. And that actually, there is my answer to where playing in 5 stacks has been a detriment. Towers of Doom, I always defend bottom now after we take it because it's such a huge impact. And sometimes that means I'm left by myself when everyone comes in.
Fun.
Mistakes are made sometimes. let's talk about the downs a little bit here, though. Like, who went down in their win rate? And Genji absolutely was affected by this, it seems. But really, Zul is the one that has gone down the most across all maps. He's particularly suffering on Snow Flurry maps. And then we have Whitemane and Kael'thas, which is interesting.
Doing poorly on the same thing? The Snow Flurry maps?
Just doing poorly in general. Whitemane is actually suffering on Rainstorm maps, which makes sense because movement speed accessing Whitemane might be a benefit there. When it comes to Kael'thas, he's not necessarily in the bottom of any list. He is suffering on Snow Flurry maps, which makes sense. You throw a Pyroblast. In fact, I've seen a great shift away. It was right around the time we had McIntyre on. We were on this huge Pyroblast kick. The entire community. All of the game. And now we've made our way back into things like Phoenix.
I've seen a ton of Phoenixes lately. That is very interesting. How's he doing on storm maps? Because again, increased move speed, getting out of the flame strike, also accessing the Kael'thas.
Yeah, I'll get an answer for you here in a moment as I look it up. There's also an interesting philosophy going around right now. And it's an old one, but it's becoming more pervasive. It's about the well conversation everyone's been having too, is basically you don't need a well if you don't take damage. So why are you taking all this unsafe damage in the first place that you have to heal off a well? And in that thought philosophy, every single regen talent you take, something that gives you survivability, is a bad talent because you should actually be continuing to perform at maximum and never taking a down fight, never being behind an XP. That you would have to fall back on those things.
Yeah, I'm looking at so for the most part, Kael'thas doing poorly on rain maps, with the exception being Dragonshire, his highest win rate map.
Interesting.
Yeah, but things like Garden of Terror is his worst map, and Sky Temple's pretty low. Interesting.
Let's actually see. Pyroblast is still it's 0.4% more winny, and we have a 61% pick rate on Pyroblast. So maybe this is going to be a sort of trickle down thing. The top is now embracing Phoenix because it is uninterruptible. That's the issue with Pyroblast, if you're wondering. It's basically there are too many little mini interrupts that put you on full cooldown that leave you with no impact, and now they're on top of you. Whereas Phoenix flies out in an instant. It is not the most effective thing. I mean, we feel this with Hyperion too. Like, when something's out there making a lot of noise, it's scary, but we're not talking about like Orphea Feast. That's get out of the zone. right now kind of business.
Yeah, 7-sided strike.
Yeah, that's got the counterplay of all piling in and hoping that all doesn't hit the tank. So there's an interesting counterplay there.
That's true.
It's not just running
I am
away.
just coming out of multiple games with the same very good Karazim who knew exactly when to rip that when there wasn't too many people that were even going to be able to adjust to that. But you're right.
Yeah, that was very much about finding one person on an off angle and hitting the 7-sided strike hard.
Yeah.
What we can say, though, looking at the two patches, the weather phenomena and call for help, is that they had very different effects on the win rates. The weather has brought more people up. The highest up win rate we have is by 12%, whereas the max we've gone down is 8.6%. Call for help, however, caused basically the reverse. Some heroes went up close to 9%, but some of them went down by as much as 18%.
Well, now you're getting into interesting territory where when you think about the two anomalies versus one another, kind of what they... How do I want to phrase this? Because you're just now making me think of this. But what they ask of you, what they kind of invite you as the player to do with that information of that anomaly, right? So the call for help anomaly was, for the most part, it was this kind of detractor. Like, yes, it could help you if your fort or keep was under attack, right? But it really felt from like an active standpoint, like I am playing the game in this anomaly and I'm now going to make a decision based on my knowledge of how this anomaly works. It came into play more on the offense when you were pushing into an enemy structure. That's where we were having conversations. You and I weren't really having conversations, and I wasn't seeing a lot of conversation being had about, oh, it makes defending so much better. No one was having that conversation. Everybody was talking about how it detracted from winning, how it made winning more difficult. Whereas the weather anomaly, if you have an understanding of how it works, yes, it is equal. Yes, both sides are getting whatever anomaly buff happens simultaneously at the same time, but suddenly the ball is in each of our individual courts to do with what we please. So it's on you what you do with that. It's not on an outside force like the tower, like the structure changes.
I think it's really interesting that the structure changes came with the core changes, but we were totally focused on the forts, cannon towers, and keeps as the point of conversation.
Well, it was the easiest thing to wrap your head around because it was consistent across every battleground, and that's the issue with just trying to have a discussion about the weather anomaly. Is it's different across maps, and it's extremely different from one hero to the next in terms of whether it's beneficial or not. And as we saw from win rates, things that should be beneficial sometimes aren't, and vice versa. Things that should be detrimental sometimes aren't. So who the hell knows? But it's a lot easier to have a conversation about all forts and keeps and towers behave this way now. Okay, there's a lot to take in with like the armor buff and whatnot and aggro. Yeah, cool, whatever. But at a very surface level, it's really easy to read that change, understand it, and move on with your game. The cores, it's a lot of flavor, and also the cores are and still are varying degrees of powerful in their abilities. Sky Temples is still kind of hilarious. It's just like, what is the point of this? It's doing less than nothing.
I mean, much like the tornado the boss puts out on Sky Temple, it does a heck of a lot 1 in every 10 games, and for the most part does nothing.
That's a good point. We've all, yes, I like the boss. We have all been completely owned by the tornado that is going in the exact direction you do not want to be going. But how often does that happen? It's
much like Deckard's ult as well.
Yeah. So it's just strange. I mean, I don't. We're like a month in, Kyle, and I don't think you and I still have a final stance on the anomaly.
I'm definitely more towards liking it at this point, though. There are some choices I'm making, particularly on rainstorms, that feel good and feel effective. I have not really taken advantage of stealth outside of scouting, but I'm tank, so I still feel like that's kind of a weird place to be. And snow flurries, that one just happens. I still don't really have a opinion. But I enjoy them. I like the flavor they're bringing. I hope we see more weather effects like that. Sandstorm we talked about, like the sunny or nighttime weather we talked about.
I want
those
just
would all
that.
be really cool.
I want just that. I want these to go away, and I just want to mess with sight. That sounds a lot more interesting to me. But yeah, I guess I would rephrase that as I don't actually know if the current anomaly is good or is bad. But my opinion of I don't like this hasn't changed.
Okay. I think that's fine. I think we're not the ones having to digest this information. We're not the devs, but I do want to take that moment to say how much is working well. Like the fact that we didn't care about the core abilities, I really, really like them. We haven't talked about them much because the conversation about what we're going to do about Cannon Towers, Forts, Keeps was way more prevalent, way more interesting, and way more dire. But I really like the core abilities. And I think that this rain influence has given me some different options or different choices at different times. And I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying the shakeup. And while we continue argue about those things, I want that clear. I'm having a good time.
I don't really have anything new to say other than I am actually rather enjoying my games as well. And at the same time, I'm looking forward to this anomaly going away.
Well, you got, 2 months?
Which isn't that positive. I thought I was going to absolutely just dog shit hate this. Like, like this is the most I've ever disliked the announcement of something in Heroes of the Storm since, what was it, Runes?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're pulling like the popular hate out of the bag.
It was the first, I mean, I mentioned it on the first episode before I read any community feedback, so.
Totally. Yeah.
But so to that I go big net positive again, but I don't know. I'm talking in circles again. I'm going to end up back on what I said last week and the week before, which is I like it because it's not upsetting the game that much, but is that a bad thing because it's not all that, in my opinion, effective? But I don't want it to be, so I'm happy.
Well, let's see if we can take some guesses here, because next week should be that balance patch. And it's not the weather that I'm nervous about changing. It's actually the meta, the balance, because right now I feel like we have such a good grasp on it. We see so many Cassia bans that are perfectly warranted. Granted, we see way more bans of things. Oh my, this seems crazy to me. But you see way more bans of things like Zool to just, how can this be? We're looking at like 10 times the number of bans on Zool and Kael'thas, but there's lots of different leagues in the game. That seems wild to me.
There are multiple leagues where Kael'thas is just tradition.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
That's just Deathwing still getting that many bans. That just seems completely nutty. So let me then preface this by saying in Diamond, the band structure is really interesting. We got the Cassia, May, and then from there we worry about who knows what. It might be Tassadar, it might be Zool. It depends on the map, and that's really good. If we nerf Cassia too much, we're going to go back to banning tanks. And I think if May doesn't get nerfed, she'll never get played again. And I really enjoy her, and I'm scared about that. I'm nervous about what they're going to do to her, because if it's a flat stat change, that's bad. I would love to see an actual change up of her lesser pick talents, divide up some of that power. Like that skate away just feels so great at this point of my skill level with her. I think the heroics there are perfect. The win rate is slightly higher on Ice Wall, as it should be, but the pick rate's low, as it should be. It's a setup for more coordinated environments. If we change this too much and we don't elevate other tanks into that place, I don't know if that's going to feel good.
So you want the other tanks to get spruced up?
There's an interesting...
Because overall, I'm pretty... like, I guess, I don't know. I almost feel like there's competing concerns. Like, you want to see Mei played, but you also don't want the tank meta to stay stale or get more stale.
Yeah, it's definitely personal because I'm enjoying her so much. So if she stays the same and we deal with Cassia and the other major bands, she'll be gone from the game and I won't get to play her. We'll be back to balloon animals. Do we need to address Rhaegar? You know, like that sort of thing.
Well, that's the thing. So you were talking. Your jumping off point for a lot of this were games banned, right? If you filter by rank and you look at diamond and above, it changes a little bit. Not a lot, but Rhaegar actually banned more than Mei, to give you a little glimmer of hope.
Okay.
And I do mean a little more. They're actually really close in games played and in games banned. Also, bans like Kael'thas, not even in the top 10 in bans once you switch it to diamond and above. Don't see it anymore. Zul drops, I think, to the bottom of the top 10, but still a popular ban. It's, I think you just don't want the risk of, I think you don't want the chore of dealing with Azul.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. He's kind of the new Murky. You remember old Murky? And we were just like, it was kind of a joke, but when you saw one, you just knew you were in for a long game of errands. It's kind of where Zul falls for me. So Mei is making it through while still being diamond above, top 5 most banned heroes. But she's number 4, and just above her is Rhaegar, and just below her is Johanna. So if you're worried about Mei getting banned and not being able to play her, you've almost as likely chance, if you're basing your decision off numbers of games banned, of not being able to play Johanna.
I guess what I'm saying, as I develop this thought here on the show, is that our bans are so particular towards things that we all feel are overpowered or we don't want to deal with, that it's leaving things like Rhaegar getting through in a lot of games, and Rhaegar is very fun for a lot of non-support players. Bloodlust is very easy to use. Lightning Shield, butt biting, with your feral lunge and running around as a dog man. It's busy, and it has lane clear and it has camp clear. If we get rid of Rhaegar, if we clean up some of these, overperformers, where do we end up? And I feel like we end up in another weird world where Lucio's back on top, but only Lucio, Ana reigns supreme, but only for the people who know how to play them. Otherwise, you get Lilies. And I don't want to return to that world because it's nice. It's kind of nice right now. It's a good meta. But it's weird that because of a ban structure, it's a good meta because certain Cassia players out there never get to play Cassia. I haven't gotten to play Cassia. I first show her. Right now, I'm listed as ranged assassin tank because if Cassia gets through, I want to be the guy. Because I like Cassia. She's fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, I still see her get through from time to time. And also, how do you feel about Cassia as a whole? Because for me, I've kind of filed her away in where I like my heroes that get banned to be, because I've played games against her. Cassia, you can just kill the Cassia. She still dies. She's not like so overtuned to the point where she's like infallible, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the most banned heroes right now, it's a good mix of what we think is powerful and also what we think the opposing team even can play. Yeah. It's a nice mix of those two. Now, there's a huge section of the Venn diagram where both of those factors are the same hero. But I don't know. Overall, I'm happy with the meta right now.
I would love for something to be done about Imperius. I think he is a beast.
I don't think about Imperius much.
He is with a 1-second stun that can hit multiple people with a cooldown reduction on his 1 and the choice between a giant killer there if he wants it. Flash of Anger at 7. His ults are kind of disappointing in a way. I think Angelic Armaments is neat on paper, but not, these aren't blessed shields. These aren't crazy changes in how you play. I think that Wrath of Angiris is a lot of fun. It has a slightly higher win rate. The fun thing about it is that if you dive too deep and you then need to peace out for a bit and basically say, whoa, I'm gonna get targeted here, let me go into space, you can do that with a friend and just avoid the fight for a couple 2 seconds. That's a pretty long time to phase out, and then you can keep playing on the other side.
Yeah, I do. I prefer Wrath of Angiris as well, but again, it's just not a hero I see a lot of representation in my game unless I'm playing with my Imperious loving friends.
Sure.
But another one of those here, like to me, I have Imperious. Again, this is all feeling, but Imperious is right next to Artanis with these. Yeah, they're mildly annoying, but again, I can just kill them. They can just die, which is an interesting thing to think of with Artanis because of the shield surprise. But I don't know. I feel like I just burned them down.
What about weather? Do you want to see any adjustments made?
A big bias here that I don't.
You can't get rid of them.
I can't get rid of it. Has to stay.
Yep.
Can I get rid of one of them for what I think is a noble reason?
You would have to pass out the other weathers to them. Or you could rearrange weather if you wish.
I'd like to keep it simple. Let's get rid of Snow Flurries because I do kind of deeply believe it is utterly pointless and really brings almost no notable change to a game of Heroes of the Storm.
Okay.
And can I replace it with with like sunny and overcast weather? Like, let's just give Curse Hollow, Infernal Transwill, Sky of Foundry, and Alterac Pass more vision. I don't think more vision would help Alterac Pass all that much. But the other three I think would be interesting.
Yeah, there is kind of a
Alterac Pass is quite wide open.
Right. And
Even
there's
the,
also
even
like
the
a
objective
part of my brain
areas.
that says you can't put rain on Alterac Pass. It makes no sense.
Yeah. No, none whatsoever. It's just, yeah, I think we either needed a replacement effect or just get rid of Snow Flurries altogether.
All right.
I just don't. I think they're utterly pointless. And this is just like the grump in me. Like this, I think it's. I'm doing my very best to put I'm not a big fan of this anomaly aside and just say I don't think they're really doing anything. Brainstorms and Foggy Mists do impact the game.
What do you think if we took Snow Flurries and got rid of the Muradin-like aspect of it, of not being hit for a couple of seconds to activate?
Oh, where they're just coming online and you just got to deal with it?
Yeah. Shields all the time. Just building.
That's more impactful without a doubt. Right? Like, let's say you keep this list up, which you should be doing because they don't have icons in the map as you're loading into the games. Suddenly you're thinking that a sustained comp looks a little more attractive, right?
Yeah.
Or on the opposite end of the pendulum, an extreme burst comp. We want to make sure we secure one kill.
What we don't see is like Gul'dan being in the bottom win rates for things on Alterac Pass. And dots don't count towards the lack of activation. If you're dotted on Muradin, you're still going to get your heal if you don't get hit for a certain amount of time. And the
same works for Snow Flurries. You're right. And it's being talked about in chat room right now. Ramen Empire says, Snow, save me from Poison Lunara. And you're absolutely right, it did. But there's not I think that's too edge case a scenario for Snow Flurry to be effective.
But it's really cool that Ramen Empire was saved because they knew to disengage long enough in order to receive the snow. Or it was a happy accident. Either way.
Yeah, I think to a certain point, whether you're like aware of it about to happen or not, it having an impact is worth something. It's like, because it should have informed the decision to draft Lunara in that scenario. I think in a world where this is impactful and interesting, whether you like it or not, it should impact the draft. So let's get as far away from the conversation we have with not paradox as we possibly can. The conversation about being, wouldn't it be nice if we knew exactly when these things were going to land? That or not, if the knowledge of the weather impacts the draft, it is being impactful. And that's kind of cool. That's what an anomaly should do. It should make you think about the game in a different way. And right now, I don't think Snow Flurries really does. There's edge case with poison, but I think that's too much of an edge case.
That's a great way to put it. I like that landing. It's basically saying that we have all these win rates. I've listed some of them today, like Chen and Kerrigan and everybody else, who are winning more. We have people who are losing more, maybe based on these anomalies, maybe based on our current meta, but we haven't changed how we draft. Nobody's sitting on a Snow Flurry map and saying, you can't do Lunara. That's insane. You won't get a kill that otherwise you might as they run away.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that way, maybe the weather isn't affecting the game in the right way. I think that's an interesting case. And we'll find out more next week in multiple ways, whether we'll get balance on this and whether or not we can grill AZ Jackson about the weather a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting a sense that it's here for the season at minimum.
Oh yeah.
So it's been pretty quiet. Like we haven't really had a lot of blue posts, right? Like we got like one this week.
No, getting into that, they are very quiet right now. It's funny too, and this is not a call out. I believe they're very busy. But one of the most recent blue posts is, why don't you guys talk more? And then they explain how they do talk, which is true, and highlighted plenty of instances where they've given plenty of good information. But yes, ever since May release, it's been super duper quiet.
Yeah.
The only thing we really talked about with blue posts is that Tyranda's Ranger got a will fix from AZ Jackson, basically saying that the Pierce at level 1 of your Sentry or your Owl doesn't work with later Talons, and therefore is not really that effective. And so Tyrande might receive a light buff, but more of a quality of life sort of thing for her Owl build.
Yeah, which would be nice for sure. But
otherwise, if they're planning something, or they're working on the frame rate issue, or something's happening over there.
Yeah, absolutely freaking lootly. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I would have almost expected an AMA around this time.
That'd be good.
A is here. There's a new anomaly in town. AMA time. Let's go.
Yeah, we haven't had when was our last AMA? Either way, we haven't received the list like we did, I think, in 2019, where they told us sort of the dates as when they're going to happen. But that was also maybe about promoting that the game was not dead after Brack Letter and all that sort of drama.
Thanks, Brack.
Thank you for that. Moving on anyway. We just talked earlier about how the game has tons of returning players, tons of top streamers right now. So it's always weird.
I'm still getting. We've had a lot of guests on Angry Chicken lately, and I still get the, I miss Heroes. It's just like, you don't need to.
You don't have to.
You don't have to miss it. There's nothing to miss. There. It's right there. It's right there. It's not like Disney, which I guess is reopening soon, but
right. That's in like.
It's not like you can't go visit it. You can right now, and I would recommend it. So, you know what else I would recommend, Kyle?
Oh, good transfer.
Today's sponsor.
Yes.
Bombas is back sponsoring this episode of Into the Nexus. You can check out their excruciatingly comfortable socks at bombas.com/Nexus. That's BOMBAS.com/Nexus. You're also going to get 20% off your first purchase for your troubles when you do that. They really do make stupid comfortable socks. They're great. I've recently fallen in love with like no-show socks. You know, it's summertime. Summertime, wearing more shorts, but still got to wear those shoes because I drive a manual car, Kyle, and I'll be damned if I'm going to drive manual in sandals. You gonna do?
Is that not illegal?
Is it? I don't think so.
Flip-flops?
I'm fairly certain that's not the case.
It doesn't sound safe.
I mean, it's not comfortable at all. You gotta wear a shoe.
Yeah.
And it's hot. And it's Florida, so you're wearing socks. or
Yeah.
you're wearing shorts, you're wearing shoes, but you're probably not
boat
wearing high
shoes on.
tops. And you know what? What do you want? You want a bunch of socks hanging out of there? If you do,
Oh, yeah.
there's great prints in all kinds of colors and availability. But I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I wanna hide
Have
it.
you ever worn boat shoes? They are made of leather. They are the most uncomfortable things on the planet. It's all about the sock.
They're super comfortable. They look great if you can see them. And if you can't, they're still comfortable. So you should go give them a look-see. And also, for every pair of socks you purchase, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. They've been able to donate over 34 million pairs of socks and counting to their nationwide network of over 3,000 partners. So you can feel good when you're also buying super socks that feel good on your feet. What more could you ask for, Kyle? Supporting your favorite Heroes of the Storm podcast in the process? I'm glad you said that. I'm glad that's not what you said, because you can do exactly that when you go to bombas.com/Nexus. You're going to get 20% off your first purchase, and you're going to support Into the Nexus in the process. So go check them out. Give a pair when you buy a pair. Get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/Nexus. That's BOMBAS.com/Nexus for 20% off your first purchase. We thank them for their support. And now, Kyle, let's do some Q&A.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you are supporting us on Patreon, you can just drop us a message directly in the patron Discord, and also just have a great place to hang out with some nice, fine folk. Go check it out. Ramen Empire writes in and says, you wake up in a cold sweat. Ramen Empire, to me, that's just a Thursday. That's just a Thursday. And realize you are AZ Jackson. Think Freaky Friday. Okay, I have amazing hair.
Sweet.
Because I've swapped to AZ Jackson, not because I am a I still have amazing hair, but it's different amazing
and
hair.
apparently you win at all video games you play. If you look at that guy's Twitter, he's just constantly talking about the game he recently beat or got highest rank in.
Mine is playing with other friends on the Heroes team. I don't know. I feel weird about calling them out by name, but and them informing me that I need to play with AZ Jackson's Stitches because he will convert me.
Oh.
Apparently AZ Jackson, amazing Stitches play. Amazing.
He was an amazing stew cop when we got to play with him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a total treat. That was a total freaking treat. But anyway, Ramen Empire has basically, we have a Freaky Friday AZ Jackson scenario, Kyle. We look at the phone that's next to us, and it's a text from yourself saying, needed a break, be back in a week. While living the life.
Freaky Friday.
What's that?
This is the Bruce Almighty situation.
Oh, it is. I guess it is Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, because he's not now Garrett or Kyle. He's pieced out. He's gone. He's off on vacation, and we have all the power.
So we are us, but our AZ Jackson for some reason.
Yes.
I think it works better if we still look like AZ Jackson because we're essentially infiltrating Blizzard.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we have to like pretend to know what's going on, and people are like, "Hey, how was the cookout this weekend?" And you're like, well, "It was great."
Oh, it was wondrous.
Yeah.
It was heroic. That's how all Heroes of the Storm devs talk in hero speak. Yes. Okay.
They
Great.
stay on brand.
Great. Anyway, Brahman continues. While living the life of AZ Jackson, what game changes do you make with the dev team before you're back to yourself? And what do you do so AZ doesn't remove it when he's back? That last one's pretty difficult. I think I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to say, make it so good that he would be insane to change it.
Well, yeah, I think it's just Ramen's making sure that you don't go buffing Rexar into space. And then when AZ comes back, he's like, whoa, town's on fire, Bruce Almighty. Let me clean this up. We want to get to the end of our Bruce Almighty movie, but Morgan Freeman doesn't bail us out. And we still get, is Jennifer Aniston? Is that who I think he got the love of? So you keep the relationship. You don't burn down the town, and you get to keep your job.
Okay.
Yeah. Has everyone not seen that movie as many times as I have? It's a great movie.
Which movie again?
Bruce Almighty.
I guess I've seen it a good amount of times, but it's I don't really think about it any more than I would really love to part traffic. That's it. That's all I really took away from that movie.
Yeah. I think about the Mummy a lot. That's probably the movie I think about the most that probably isn't the cultural touchstone that I think it is.
Kyle, can we, for the love of God, answer this question?
Okay.
I mean, he's a lead balance designer is official title, yes?
He's a game designer.
Game designer. Okay.
Yeah, so we're in charge. We can do a lot of things. Anything that touches the live game, I believe, passes over his desk at some point. So if that's the case,
I mean, without a doubt, the very first thing is just Arthas doesn't stop when he casts Death Coil.
Okay. Yes, I don't think that'll be Morgan Freemanerized on his way out.
Death Coil while moving, instant windmill slam. The other thing would obviously be Broodlust, which of course he wouldn't remove because he was the one who put this idea in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of less obvious. The Death Coil one, man, that's the big one. And then as much influence as I could put towards Keenan Brew in the art department to give Arthas a refresh visually.
Okay, so you'd apply some pressure to the rest of the team, but
I would blow open the vault and put the redone art version of Brightwing into the live game.
Okay, those are good.
A lot of my stuff's art related.
I'd have at the maps.
You'd have at the maps. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because they've been around for a while, and maybe it's my tower defense Factorio brain, but everyone likes to argue about the wells, which is fine. You know, they're a very important part of the building economy, and they're leaving their pylons wide open. Put your pylons in a safe place.
I wouldn't move them. I would just make them immune until the front wall is down.
Okay, so you're in that camp, are you? All right.
I think it's simple. You could have an aura around them that already exists for... What do we have an aura around?
But you're talking about like the core that can't be targeted until a keep goes down.
You do a little mini one of those around the fountain or the well, and it can't be touched until both turrets are down.
Well, I'm not even saying that like the well isn't important to me, but it's a part of the problem. It's an example of the problem, because what I want to do is just pick that thing up and put it behind the fort.
I don't want that. Can I explain to you why?
Okay, go for it.
The fort goes down. It's time to retreat. There's now a big chunk of space you can't path through as the defender. There's now a wall for the opposing Diablo to play with. There's now there's this collisionable structures behind your structure that just went down.
Oh no, wells don't work that way. They're gone. They don't exist. It's the fort or keep that has a leftover structure space.
But the well's still up because it's behind the fort.
Oh, you're saying? Oh, that's advanced, man. Yeah, you're talking about like a well. Oh, okay. Reset this, because that was but to be a hint, a touch of what I want to do. And now I feel like I've made a political stance. I've joined a certain party. I'm like, I'm not in the well party.
No. I'm just armchair designing with you.
So what I want to do,
I just pulled my armchair next to your armchair. I may have put it in a reclining position, but I'm still next to you, buddy.
I think what happened is you put your armchair next to my armchair, but you're using my armrest, so you're kind of like in my space. And now I'm kind of doing like the side lean, trying to recover some of my space. You're fine. Everyone's fine. We're all good here. Better example. What I would do is I would go to Hanamura and I would extend the walls and close up some spaces. Because Tomb of the Spider Queen has these nice little walls in all sorts of weird places protecting the core area and lots of little exits. I would do the Battlefield of Eternity treatment on the middle of the core area there. So there's 2 towers, there's a well, another tower, 3 towers protecting that one entrance in the middle there.
There are 4 towers.
So you could exit through the middle, and I would get rid of those darn accessible by the enemy side big open spaces that allow people to just wander around Hanamura for free. Either put up like a tower, a Tomb of the Spider Queen destructible wall there, or just make it terrain and get rid of it. And I would go across the maps, and I would just want to apply some. It sounds worse than it is. I want to apply logic. That's not what I want to say, because they're done with reason. But I want to apply some prettiness to my brain that says, why is this here? Why is this? I thought this was my part of the map that was defensible. This should be a castle. I mean, Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep had a water hole. That was the weakness. That's okay, I guess.
It didn't have no wall to begin with. Is that what you're getting at?
No, yeah. Well, I'm saying like there's weaknesses that make sense, like the water hole, because you couldn't have a lake building up in the back of Helm's Deep. You had to let it out.
Or in the front, you deal with erosion and all kinds of problems.
But when they retreated, they got that was a serpentine path of defense as they went up and down and around, and each little battlement had its own little defense of the next area. It was pretty well designed.
Yeah, but you can't do that in Heroes of the Storm because certain heroes can just leap in and stun everybody because there's a serpentine choke area.
At least they would be isolated.
You'd all be stunned.
Well, luckily there wasn't a Genji orc.
Kyle, we currently cannot retreat safely from a fort or keep going down in the game as it is, where there is nothing at all behind it. That being said, I am completely on board with you in get some damn walls on Hanamura. What's going on? Yeah, I have nothing more to add to your add walls to Hanamura. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I approve this message.
Good.
Or I'm sorry, in the case of Ramen Empires, I am AZ Jackson, and I approve this message.
I think it's fascinating that your first thought to relocating the fountain was that Diablo's going to use it. You're not wrong.
I mean, the Diablo is the top of the example wall. Frankly, it's just pathing issue. If you try to go straight back, well, where is it? Is it in the middle? You got to go around it. Is it to the left? Well, you got to go to the right. Is it to the right? You got to go to the left. And okay, cool. There's something to work your blizzard on, off of against as May. Your flame strike, put it to the left or the right of that. What direction did they decide to go around it? That's where the flame strike goes. That's where the blizzard goes. That's where the Jaina blizzard goes. There's so pathing and blocking and denial of area is extremely important in this game. It always has been.
All right.
Also, nothing tilts me more than people dying because why were you even there? The fort's going down. Why are you there in the first place? They can't escape as it is. You put something behind them, just one more thing to get in the way.
My brain remembers so well when they touched up Garden of Terror, not the rework, but they opened up the mercenary camp so you at least would be visually exposed.
They did a similar thing on let's go deep here. Quite literally.
On Mines?
On Mines.
Yeah.
They changed up those merc camps big time, and it was pretty freaking interesting. You remember how many fights we used to get into around those merc camps?
Yeah, I do. And I just think it's fascinating that we don't touch up our maps at all and make them more defensible, less defensible. We spend so much time getting the heroes going. Why can't we move a tree? Why can't we? Personally,
wonder if that's going to be a future anomaly and not years from now, the next anomaly or the next anomaly where they start moving things around.
It'd be interesting.
Geogranomally?
Yeah. Earthquake.
Geogranomally. There we go. We figured it out. Anything else, Kyle?
That's the big one that's on my mind.
Walls for Hanamura?
Yeah, walls for Hanamura, but in general, I'd love to go through all the maps and just kind of spin some things, tweak them a little bit. Maybe cut down the C shape of the Knoll camp a little bit so you're not as isolated doing that thing. Open that up a little bit to your side. Yeah, just make the maps, change the maps, but make them different. I mean, if I were to go crazy, let's go crazy. I would add Dota-like forests to all the sides because I think those things are genius and awesome.
forests?
Yeah, so in Dota, there are trees that border the entire map. And between those trees is space. So over the course of the game's many, many, many years of development and many, many years of pro play, people know bizarre pathings to dodge all sorts of weird stuff by going into those tree lines.
Oh, because
You're
there's just
basically-
weird little pockets that you can step into.
Exactly. Like, you know how we have like a bush that goes like, like a little C, and then it has like a thingy in it. And on Sky Temple, like, you know, by the boss, there's that little alcove that maybe a Stitch has put you in once after a gorge.
So you want more of
But,
those.
like,
you want to
imagine
you want to be putting more alcoves.
Yeah, like it's all over the place, but only on the edges. Like, just the edge of the map is this wild frontier.
I like that. I like that. More irregularity in your perimeter walls. You've got a thing for walls right now, Kyle. You want to put them up. You want to tear them down. You want to put holes in them.
I don't think it's related to anything. I think I just like messing with maps.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're having we ended in a very large conversation about collision, really, or lack thereof, and how it impacts the game, which I think is right. And you just reminded me of the other. Basically, I would do everything I've ever beaten a drum about on the show. The other thing is I would drastically reduce the map pool and make it the same across all game modes.
Oh man,
whatever the current rotation is.
Man,
I would just strike it into existence.
Ah, gosh, we hear that sort of terminology. The I'm quitting till the end of X change. And I know we'd hear it if they said, all right, one rainstorm map, one snow flurry map, one foggy mist map. But that would be so... I see how it could get stale. But it could be so cool.
I don't think it should be... I don't think it should be 3 maps. But I don't. What is our current count?
Our current count is 12.
12. Yeah, I don't think it should be 12 either.
So 6 maybe?
I was thinking 6 or 7.
Yeah. Like, that would just be, it'd be cool to know that the season I don't ever have to see Sky Temple. I've become okay with the map. I always have like Temples of Stress or Towers of Stress or Tomb of Stress. Like, there's always one map every sort of 6 months that is just the one that scares the bejesus out of me. And it used last season, it was Dragonshire, Stressy Shire. Or Dragon Stress.
I'm trying to think of what mine is right now. I don't know. There's too many damn maps.
Temple. Stressamura Temple.
Stressamura Temple. I like Hanamura. I'm weird. I dig Hanamura, but yeah. So are we done? Is Freaky Friday complete?
Freaky Friday's complete. He came back. You know, we're ourselves again.
Cool. All right. Still blonde, still lanky. DT Allaire. We thanked you today. Thank you for being a patron and also writing in. Writes in and says, how do I get back into ranked while having a low win rate percentage? Not sure how that's a barrier. I gave up on playing ranked quite a while back because I was constantly bringing in friends that were new to the game and teaching them how to play and such in quick match, and I lost a lot. And I mean a lot. So my win rates on my favorite / best heroes went skyrocketing down. Then going back into ranked, I was yelled at every game for my hover choices, saying that my win rate was too low and to pick something else. Ranked isn't fun if I'm always being told what I should play. Okay, now I understand. So they're profile sniping you or snooping you, and you're getting yelled at because you don't win a lot. But if this is a while back, they're also probably just being turned off by the dates of the games. I would bet is also a bit of a turn off. This sounds like a classic case of turn your chat the hell off. Because this is personal improvement land, and nobody else's opinion matters. This is you working on yourself and your own gameplay. Because it's also, you probably tanked your MMR, which means you get to have fun on Kerrigan or pick your skill-based assassin of choice that can really capitalize on people that don't know where the hell they should be standing.
Yeah, but what DT is saying here too is that snooping is so detrimental to breaking that cycle, because then you end up on heroes either you don't like or that have higher win percentages. But
no,
you
get to go in selfish self-improvement territory is what I'm saying. Turn off chat. It doesn't matter. This is about you. It is not about them. And
I mean, I snoop. Anyone
I
who
snoop
comes by my
too,
Twitch
dude.
page
I snoop
knows
too.
I'm snooping.
I snoop too. Like, A, people shouldn't come down on you. B, we live in reality. People are going to come down on you. This is an online game with people behind a wall of anonymity. People are going to be jerks from time to time. People who are in a lower league and seeing things that they think are dumb during a pandemic when everything is amplified, every feeling you feel is amplified. We had Ridiculous Hat as a guest on the Angry Chicken yesterday. He was wonderful because he called Hearthstone, and I think this is true for every game, is the ultimate Rorschach test right now because of the world that we are in. We're having a lot of feelings, and whatever you are playing to relax, it's going to be amplified back to you. What are you trying to do? What was the goal that you set? Did you set to yourself, I will win this game? You don't get to say that. You get to try to achieve that goal as much as you can, but you can't guarantee it. And if that's your make or break on having a good night, you're going to have a bad time.
That's a good point.
And so, dude, he was a great guest. I wish the man played Heroes. We should bring him on here too. Got real philosophical in a way that was easy to digest. And I've been thinking about it a lot ever since just recording that episode yesterday. Of thinking about your favorite games, competitive games specifically, as a Rorschach test. Like, what are you telling yourself when you're getting into your session? Because you should be careful what you tell yourself. But in this case, I've been in this situation. I've gone on major losing streaks. I've ended up lower than I feel I should be, with players that are mad at me for picks I feel are good. But I don't know. I'm trying to simplify this, and I'm struggling. But
no, you're doing a good job.
Picks that are good. What does good mean? Good is relative. But like for me, when I end up lower than I should be, I don't play the same things I pick when I'm back where I usually am. I pick the heroes that I know give me the highest chance of gaining value from misplays. Because are you in a lower league? Cool. You're going to see misplays. How do you get value out of that? That's where my brain goes. But I'm not going to play Kerrigan right now, Kyle. It's not going to work. I'm not going to get value out of Kerrigan. But the last time I ended up in silver, you know what I just slammed? Kerrigan. Nobody knows how to stand anywhere safely or stutter step or move or juke in a way that isn't extremely predictable. And so most people aren't used to seeing Kerrigan in silver. Last time I was there, they were mad at me for picking Kerrigan. I ignored them and picked Kerrigan anyway. This is like you're simultaneously you get to be egotistical while your main goal is self-improvement. It's just that it's self-improvement in Heroes of the Storm. But you need to decide what's right for you and ignore outside opinions.
Right.
Because you're not going to improve
outside
otherwise.
Opinions in the game. And that it's for practice, for improvement, you're going to get worse if you're not constantly checking yourself now. So turning off that line of communication and critique does leave you vulnerable to developing bad habits. So if you really wanted to like super duper have at this, and that'd be a very exposing thing of your ego, you could stream it. You could say, I'm turning off in-game chat, but I'm going to stream this from my point of view, and people watching critique what I see and what I do, not the opinions of my current teammates.
It's a more interesting well to pull from, because the criticisms are not going to be coming from an one-to-one interested party.
Yeah.
And you can also sometimes find people that play the hero that you're playing that may actually have actionable tips for you. It's also coaching. Heroes coaches are few and far between nowadays, but yeah, it's rough. But I go through periods of turning chat on and off. I never stay one way or the other, but it just Comes down to, is it useful for me? Can I handle it? Because when I can handle it, I do like having chat on, because you never know, maybe a strategy will take place in chat. That's nice to know. But if I was in your position, detail layer, I would turn chat off. This would be the moment where I would say, okay, I am now, and I need to turn chat off mode, because it's about me. I need to work on my play.
It's just the worst when that happens, when they look at your win rate on something.
Yeah, and yet
you've been working on that you maybe historically did bad on. And I do it too, but you have to take it in perspective. Like, there's so many elements moving at the same time. If you see a 33% win rate, that's 3 games. I don't critique that number because I know that, but if I see 60, it's something that doesn't make a lot of 4, you go, wow, that's a lot of games. That's a great number. Let's pick your hero there. That is a number I can respect. It's just so wrong of them to make those assessments, bud.
Yeah, that's why I'm not really going there, because this is MOBAs, dude.
Yeah.
Dota, League, whatever High-Risk Studios is making. I guess they still have Smite, which now has avatar characters and actually looks dope as hell. Doesn't matter. People are going to be jerks. It's the internet. It's a sad truth, which is why I just didn't want to focus on it, because there's nothing we can do about it.
Yep. So turn off chat.
Except turn off chat.
But be honest with yourself, and you're going to have to work hard with yourself and your own statistics. And I personally love hot slogs for that very thing. But no, it's 100% true. It's 100% true. Like, looking at your own account and organizing it on hot slogs allows you to have a lot of information, particularly when it comes to map picks and things like that you can't get in the game. And you're going to have to be brutally honest with yourself with what's working and what's not. But that also means you're going to have to play a lot to make up for that perspective you'll be getting from the chat. And that's funny to say, but you're going to have to just overwhelm yourself with statistics in order to see anything truthful, because you're not getting other people's opinions to critique your own by.
Well said. And with that, I think we have an episode in the bag, Kyle.
Very good.
Good show.
Good. Well done, everyone.
When you say very good, I don't. It just makes me think of I don't know, something in a proper posh British accent.
Sure. I learned this week that we're the ones with the British accents.
Are we?
Yes.
This is how they used to talk, and then we revolted.
Yeah,
and they're like, we'll be fancier than you.
Exactly. They wanted to be more fancy, so they made up new accents. And actually, the Southern accent is the closest to British as it was.
Is that true? No way.
Apparently.
No way.
According to a Google research I did while watching The Revolution from 2006 History Channel last week, that is what I figured out. I also, of course, had to research why they stood in lines and fired at each other, because it seems dumb by modern standards. So,
And you know what I just learned is that we direly need to do a weak sauce.
There we go.
But July is just bad. But you can pay us to do it regardless of how bad a month is. We will make the time. Go to patreon.com/ITN and help us get to our next goal. We're so close. We're so close, everybody. So go check it out. Patreon.com/ITN. We will make time for it, because it'll be worth our time. I won't have to do as much freelance.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's very binary for me. Ooh, I don't have to take one more contract. I can talk to Kyle about insane documentaries he just watched.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk to you about things like Last of Us 2, or being really proud that I got a D rating in Gran Turismo online.
Congratulations.
I worked hard for that D rating.
If we're going, the only thing I have perspective on is Sonic level ranking, so I know how great a D is. D is awesome. You lived, you survived.
I'm just happy I can keep it on the track. Although because of Last of Us 2, I have moved the PlayStation back out to the living room, which means I have not been sim racing, which means when I do get back to it, I'm probably going to be terrible. But
that's practice.
Whatever the case is, go check us out, patreon.com/ITN, if you want to support the show. Huge thanks to our producers, by the way, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, Chris K., Mike C., and Eric C. Thank you so much for your support, you 5. You can also catch us live Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Do not miss next week. Also follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. And other than that, Kyle, where can folks find you?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. You can find VODs of Heroes of the Storm play over at youtube.com/Kyle Fergusson. You can find all the shows over at kyleferguson.com.
And you can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art. Every other podcast that I do can be found at amove.tv. I would highly recommend the most recent episode of The Angry Chicken if you're a Hearthstone fan, because we had a ridiculous hat on from the Coin Concede podcast, and it was just lovely. It's been a while since we've had another podcaster guest on, and I forgot how nice it is to just hang with folks that like are dorks about the flow of conversation.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Great guest. Go check it out. Angry Chicken, wherever podcasts can be found. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Into the Nexus. Until next time, good luck and have fun, everyone.
Take care.